Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my next walk and talk video. I'm here with my new friend Aaron Brent.
Hi.
Hello. And we are at the, where is it here? The Shoreline, Bonneville Shoreline Preserve and Trail, which I've been here quite a bit lately. And we're just going to walk and talk about Aaron's life, and why don't we go out this way so we can get away from people. And well, it's a Saturday morning and there's a lot of, is this side good? This is your good ear, right? Good ear.
Good.
Yeah. Right. For some reason, I'm getting only me. There we go. But so Aaron, we met fairly recently, and you have quite an interesting life story. But I'll let you talk, and I'll just interject with questions. But if you can talk a little bit about your upbringing and where you're from, and if you want to talk about how we met, you can talk about that or not, and I'll just interject with questions.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was born in Ontario, Canada.
Right.
And my parents were Catholic, and they were proselyted from the missionaries of the LDS Church, and they became interested in the gospel, and they accepted the gospel, and they were baptized. And
this is your parents?
My parents. Yeah.
Right.
And
the first members of their families?
Yes. Yeah. And their family, my dad's mother, I don't think she really wanted him to join the church. But they joined, and this was in 1959 when I was born. I was born in '57, but they decided a couple years later to move to Utah.
Okay, quickly, just very quickly. You were what child of how many?
I'm the second to the youngest out of 9 children.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
who? So I guess Catholics are famous for having big families too.
Yeah, that's
Catholic
right. So Catholic to Mormon.
We populate this place, right?
Yeah.
But go ahead. Sorry.
So they decided, after being members, they decided to move to Utah.
Right.
So they moved to Utah with all the children, and we actually have a picture of us all in a caravan, of a SUV caravan of us.
From Ontario, so from East Coast.
Ontario.
From East Coast. That's East Coast. Canada, right? Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay.
To Utah. And so, but my oldest son, my oldest brother, I should say, he died.
What age?
When I was 2 or 3.
Oh, okay.
I guess that happened soon after they came. He got run over by a car.
Oh man.
That was a negative thing. And,
oh man.
So they stayed in Utah for about 8 years, and then decided to move back to Canada on the west coast, British Columbia, Canada.
Right.
So they moved up there. I went to school there. I played hockey there. Hockey's big up there.
Oh yeah.
We graduated high school. I came down to the church schools, BYU, Idaho, and BYU. Of course, it was called Ricks then.
Oh, right.
78. But after my high school, I decided I wanted to leave Canada.
What year did you graduate from high school?
Like 76.
76. Okay, I graduated 79. So okay.
Oh, okay.
Here.
So I wanted to come to America.
Right.
And, I settled in the Pacific Northwest, met my wife there, and got married. And so I got family still in British Columbia, Canada, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I had some other sisters come down to America, 2 sisters in Oregon, and 1 sister in southern Utah.
Wow.
So most of us are, about half of us are believers. We're active believers in the church and the gospel.
And 9 of you are still alive? Oh, you had 1 brother.
8.
Yeah,
about 8 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died when he was about 9. It was unfortunate.
Oh, wow.
That car and
was that devastating to the family?
Yeah, my dad hit him hard.
Oh, wow. How old was he when he died?
9.
9. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a special person, I think. God took. tithing child.
Oh.
9, no, almost 10. But actually, yeah. So I was born in Canada. My sister was born in Utah.
Right.
So she's my younger sister, 2 years younger.
Right.
And so we're all still alive so far. My oldest sister, Shannon, she's 10 years older than me. And she's still alive. She's pretty tough.
Wow.
She's kind of self-reliant. To a fault, I think.
So, was your childhood happy?
Oh yeah, when you're a child, everything's. One thing I liked about my childhood was nature.
Ah,
And,
okay.
going out on hikes in nature and seeing the different plants and trees. I really love trees.
Did you do that as a family?
Oh yeah, my parents were in Utah. They were pretty avid skiers. We went skiing a lot. And,
Oh, wow.
they taught me how to ski.
Oh, wow.
They like to ski. Yeah,
Wow.
My mother was a really good ice skater.
Oh,
She
man.
liked to figure skate.
Oh, wow.
She was really good at it.
Wow,
She was quite beautiful on the ice.
wow. Elegant.
Yeah, yeah. Elegant's a good word. Yeah.
That's something I don't have much of. Elegance.
Come up on your right.
Okay. Do you mind if we walk out to here, or would you want to walk straight? Let me just show them what we're looking at. It's a beautiful Saturday here in Utah, and I've been out here many times, as you've seen from my videos. But if this is your first time, this is Shoreline Trail and some foothills up here that I don't have the energy to hike today, but someday I will hike them. But let's continue our story. Here, let me get on this side of you, and so I'll go here to the edge and down there and see what happens.
So that's our family history. I like the United States. I like living here.
Are you still a Canadian citizen?
No, I became American, but I'm dual citizen.
Oh, you have both. Okay, yeah.
Canadians don't recognize me. Don't recognize the.
U.S.
Well, when you take your U.S. citizenship, you kind of relinquish any claims on any other citizenship, according to their
rules, yeah.
tradition of becoming an American citizen.
But when you go back to Canada or visit Canada, do you have a Canadian passport that you have to show?
No,
or?
I don't have a Canadian one.
Okay.
No, I just show my naturalization paper or my birth certificate, and they let me in.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But
So, growing up, what did you like have a gang of kids you hung around with, or did you just have your siblings, or what kind of neighborhood did you live in, and
it was a
and games did you play?
It was a neighborhood of the woods.
Oh, the woods. Not many children.
Well, I had friends at school in British Columbia. I had good friends. But we lived 2 miles up the hill in the mountain on a 150-acre forested area, and it was quite a walk to get home at night. It was about a mile or two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess that's where I learned. Like, I went to school. I went to Rick's College, and I was going to be a forestry major.
Okay. And did you accomplish that, or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I changed my major.
To what?
Well, I was undecided for 2 years. I took it like a general education major.
Uh-huh.
Not BYU. I decided on economics.
And then the career you ended up in? Or?
No.
I don't know, but I'm asking, what did you...
Oh, well, I settled in after college. I went to Portland, Oregon area, and Hillsborough. I became a real estate agent and an appraiser. I worked at the county as an appraiser.
Ah, okay.
And that was a good job.
Oh, okay.
And then while I was at the county, I met a person in the right-of-way department, and I decided to go into to be a right-of-way agent. So I took the classes. There's
Okay, can you explain that to people who don't know what that is?
Yeah, I acquired land rights for different kinds of public works projects and utility projects, pipeline, power line, highway.
So if we wanted to build a highway here, you would have to, what, buy out people who own the land?
Yeah, I have to go negotiate, acquire the land rights.
And what if you wanted to build a highway and people don't want to sell the land? What happens?
Eminent domain.
Right, and then the government has the right to it, and people must sell their land, or what?
Yeah, if the courts decide you have to take out a permit for a public use and necessity, it has to be given by the judge, a federal judge, and then you have rights of eminent domain at that point.
So if a person has a house there and doesn't want to sell, he's forced to sell.
Basically, yeah, for the public good.
At market price, or how does the
Market price? Yeah,
Okay.
They have to have appraisals done. They have to follow the rules and regulations set down by the federal government for highway.
Did you ever get involved in any disputes with that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
There's a lot of disputes sometimes. But it's usually higher than me. If you're talking about pipeline work,
Right.
you don't have right of eminent domain at first. You have to get a certain number of people that are okay with it along the corridor,
Right.
and then they can apply for a permit to the federal courts, and they'll give you a certificate
Right.
of public use and necessity.
Right.
Because say this freeway out here we're looking at.
Yeah.
If
We're looking at this freeway.
if people didn't want it there, just imagine the traffic you'd have
Yeah.
on the surface streets.
Yeah.
Everybody didn't want it, but
There's the freeway.
we decided that there's too much traffic and congestion. We need a freeway here, and some people aren't going to like it, but it's unfortunate. But we try to give them fair compensation. That's what the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution says.
Right. Market price.
Yeah, fair compensation means market price.
Wow.
Yeah, the modern society, people say, well, gee, why do I have to give up my land,
Right.
But we live in a modern society, and
Right.
you have to go back to Edison and say, well, hey, they invented electricity. Well, they needed a right-of-way to get the electricity from the power plant to the people.
You need a path.
So ever since our modern world, we really need rights-of-way.
Interesting. Can you foresee any new kind of in our technological world we have today, where something similar to that will happen in our day? Oh, let's go left here.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, in the information age, is there anything that approaches that in the way?
Oh yeah, Google Fiber. You got internet. You got to have rights of way, laying cable. Usually, a lot of that's done through the public streets, so that they have a franchise with the city. Sometimes they have a franchise with another utility, putting it on poles, like our internet and everything. So.
Okay, so back to your life. So let's see. What do you want to talk about next? Do you want to tell them how we met, or no? That's too painful.
That's the struggle. Sometimes we have to accept it as God's will,
Right.
and know that He loves us. And things happen that weren't very positive, that they can be overcome through Christ and His atonement, and to more focus on Him, because there's only so much we can do as fallen human beings.
Right.
So there was a lot of negative things in our family, and but I didn't want to focus on him because it's all over now, and we want to focus on a better world
Right.
with Christ. And knowing that he suffered the pain of all men, so so there's nothing that we don't suffer that he didn't suffer.
And you find solace in that.
Oh yeah, I find a lot of strength in that in Christ.
And so let's just talk about how many, or if you want to, challenges in your life that have kind of tested your mettle.
Yeah.
And how did you overcome?
Well, that's still overcoming.
Yeah, it's still over the process. Huh?
Yeah, it's a process.
It's a process.
It's not one moment. It's like, I don't know. I feel like God's in charge of our lives, and meeting you was a blessing. I felt.
Oh God, same here.
And I'm just going through trials, divorce or whatever trials we go through, and to lean more on God's help.
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much detail about, but anyways, unbeknownst to me, when we met you, my wife had been kind of praying that she could, for something that would let her take her focus off her own problems for a while, and maybe not to say that we did any great thing, but at least for those couple of days, it was kind of an answer to her prayers, and I think she's doing much better now.
That's good.
With my grandkids here, and she doesn't have a lot of time to think about those type of things, right?
Yeah, so it takes her mind off it.
Yeah.
It's the same as me. If I focus on Christ, it can get me through the day better.
Right.
If I don't have him. One thing I've learned is, there's a few things from Christ is to forgive one another.
Yeah.
And also to
Forgive
pray
yourself.
always.
And how about forgiving yourself?
Oh, and forgiving yourself, that's important too. 'Cause that's a hard one. Sometimes
Yeah.
I can be brutal on myself.
Yeah, and we all can. We all can. We all make mistakes.
Yeah,
We all,
we're all fallen human
fallen human beings. I mean, even, from the president of the church down, where we all need a savior, right?
Yeah.
Remember when Peter betrayed Christ in the New Testament? You remember the story, right?
Peter denied him.
Yes.
Yeah.
He denied him 3 times, and
Yeah.
Christ foretold that. He said, "No way, no way." But then
No,
Christ was killed or taken away,
Yeah, he was.
and then they were going to come after him.
Yeah.
And one of the what was that? The scripture go before the third day, or before the crow. The cock crows thrice, you will deny me 3 times or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And he didn't realize it until that 3rd time, and then boom.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
He was fat, but it felt really bad.
Yeah, a lot of people. I don't know how they take that story, but for me, I mean, Peter was essentially the president of the church of his day, right?
Right.
And yet he's making that big of a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's stop down here. I think this is my first time to go down this trail, and we'll see how far it goes, but see what overlooks me. But anyways, Peter, it gives me hope. It's like, even Peter denied Christ 3 times.
Yeah.
Why do I have to beat myself up? I mean, I don't expect myself to be perfect, and I don't expect Peter to be perfect. I don't expect the president of the church to be perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect, so why be so hard on myself,
Yeah.
So, to me, it gives me comfort.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's let's go down there and then we'll take a little walking break and take in the sights. But this is a little soft. This is my first time down. I'm sorry. We got us on this soft trail that is kind of steep. I gotta stop right here. And this is where it gets kind of. I think it goes down into the cement plant or something like that. So it's not very pretty, but let me get some sights here. There we are, all the way around. Let you take in the view. I don't have the steady hand as my friend Scott did in our video that we did together. There's Aaron. Here we are. It's a beautiful Saturday in, what's the date today? 24th of September? Something like that. There's a little nip in the air. You can feel the, let's just take a little break. You can feel the a little autumn in the air. It feels good.
Yeah.
But anyways, so any, let's see, where do you want to take the conversation next?
Well,
What would you like to talk about?
well, just wrapping it up a little bit, maybe things you've learned over your life, learn how to trust in God more and pray more, forgive, focus on Christ more than ourselves, and
Oh yeah.
get ourselves out of our own head, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a black hole if you focus on yourself.
Yeah.
What's the scripture say? What's the scripture say? I don't have them at my fingertips, like, but yeah.
Which one?
I'm trying to think
Where's
of one.
the book?
Focusing on yourself. Rather focus. Lose your life. Find,
Oh, whoever shall lose his life
yes.
for my sake
Yes.
shall find it.
And the way I take that to me, what losing your life means forgetting your life. I mean, not
Yeah.
worrying about too much of yourself,
Yeah.
not getting inside your own head all the time,
Serving others,
serving others,
getting out.
and get outside your own head, and that's where then the light comes shining through. But when you're focused on yourself, it's like a black hole.
Yeah,
It's
like-
kind of counterintuitive. You think, oh, I want to be happy, I'll focus on making myself happy. But it's the exact opposite. When you do that,
Yeah.
or do it too much or whatever, in relative, it's just like a black hole. It sucks you in, and
for
there's no joy in that.
Yeah, I think we should be. Another thing is, we should try to take one day at a time and just live in that day, in that moment,
In the moment,
and thank God you still got breath,
right?
and that He's given you breath, and that you can have another day to change and repent and
Right.
draw closer to Him,
Right.
to your Maker.
Right. So, I don't want to dwell on this, but you mentioned earlier that you were recently divorced.
Yes, sir.
Kind of talk just a tiny bit about that. Is there any? I mean, when I was talking to you the first time, you seemed to state that it has now made you realize all the things you could have done differently.
Oh yeah, and
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah. I'm not sure it's healthy,
Okay.
but I do wish things could have been much different.
Yeah.
Mistakes I made, and she's made less mistakes than me, I think. But the best I can do is, as a fallen human being, is repent, try to do better. And I still love my wife because I
Right.
felt like she's my soulmate.
Right.
We were married for 30 years,
But
and that God gave me 30 years with her. She's a wonderful person.
if there's anything you could
I-
think of that you
I find
wish
it-
you would
I would
have done differently.
I feel like
or-
sometimes I wish I wouldn't have been. How do you say it? Mostly, I've been emotionally stable because I haven't been really that emotionally stable, and that's always been a problem with me, my head. being
Emo-
emotionally stable.
Emotionally stable, and can you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Well, it's just
I mean, what would get you off kilter? What,
like pressure,
pressure,
pressure of the world, pressure of work, pressure
and then how would that manifest?
that would manifest in some unhealthy behaviors like overreacting to things, anger,
Ah,
depression, or both. Sometimes they're related.
right.
Just not having, not being a better example for my children as far as emotional stability goes.
Right, right.
I've lost jobs over some of my issues where I overreact and I get angry, upset, and I don't even really need to be. It's a thing I've noticed in our family.
Right.
My parents and my brothers and sisters, they get pretty emotionally off kilter pretty fast. So, and it leads to thoughts of suicide, other type thinking. It's not good.
Right. So, what, why, where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's in your DNA or in your
Genetics, I guess.
upbringing or?
Genetics, yeah. My dad was an overreactor. And I hate to say it, but I'm that way too. I overreact to things. It's not in a healthy way.
Right. Overreact. I mean, we all do have our moments.
Yeah.
Especially when you're raising children. I mean,
Yeah.
I think back on some of the things I did, and it's like, oh man, it's like now I've got 62 years of wisdom with me, and I think sometimes, why couldn't I, when I was first raising kids, I couldn't have that wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come, overnight.
That's right.
It comes through experience, right?
Yeah, you wish you were a better parent, and
Right, we all do.
yeah.
But you got to cut yourself some slack, right?
Yeah.
Just as you would cut your neighbor some slack if he flew off the handle or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Life's funny.
It's hard. Life's hard. You hear general authorities talk about that. Life is hard. It's a struggle.
There's that one poem that you hear it in conference quite a bit, but what does it say? I once had, I'm just paraphrasing, like I once had a dream, and in my dream I thought life was joy, and then I woke up and I found that life was work. Life was hard. And then I realized in my old age that work and duty are joy. So that hard work, it's kind of like, I talk about weightlifters. It's kind of like, can you imagine a weightlifter who is complaining constantly about the weights he has to lift? Those weights are making him stronger, right?
Yeah.
And just like life is, we should not bitch and moan about the weight of the weights. It's making the weightlifter strong, is right? It's the thing that he thinks is a bad thing is actually just making him stronger. And I think life is that way too.
I was listening to the story of William Tyndale this morning.
Uh-huh.
He translated the Bible into English.
Right.
But it was illegal then when he was in the 1500s, and he went to prison. He was persecuted. He was kidnapped, put into jail, and then eventually he was murdered for just because he wanted to get the Bible into the English language so people could understand it.
Right.
Get it out of the Latin, out of the priest's hands, give it to the people.
Yes.
And that was his mission in life. And the things he endured, and it's like, wow, my life's really not that hard compared to his, or somebody like Jan Hus, another reformer who defied the church because of their corruption.
Right.
And they burned him at the stake.
Yeah.
Shoot, we suffer. We think we suffer, but sometimes some people had a lot worse than we did. I didn't have to be. I think William Tyndale was in prison for 500 days straight.
Oh, wow.
And all he wanted was study material so he could translate.
Can you imagine that?
And the guy knew 8 different languages. He was a genius, and but all he wanted, he had a mission in his life. He even gave a famous quote to a priest who the priest did not like it, but he said, if God gives me breath, I'll make the Bible readable for even the boy that rides the plow. I don't know if there's some allusion to Joseph Smith there, but it just kind of rings a bell that, you know.
Until that time, it was only the priestly
Yeah,
class.
yeah, and it was in Latin. And they didn't understand Latin.
Yeah, and
they weren't educated.
And it was their interpretation, and they were the only ones worthy of interpreting the scripture. I can think of some modern day cases of that. I don't want to get political, but Twitter and Elon Musk come to mind. I just think, I don't know if you've paid any attention now, but I just love what Elon Musk has done with Twitter. We now have a platform where we can speak the truth, and people, you don't have to be in fear of being canceled or
like some of those other ones doing that.
I don't want to.
Don't mention any names, but
some other names that let's just say I've been on. Had some videos removed from certain platforms because they were, I guess, not approved. I was quoting from articles from the CDC itself, but I got them pulled for misinformation.
Wow.
Go figure.
Wow.
So somebody's putting their thumb on the scale in a lot of institutions, and it's unfortunate. But Tyndale, back in those days, it was kind of, I mean, he was maybe an Elon Musk of his day.
Yeah, even Elon Musk said something. They filmed him saying something about Christ and how what he thought of him, and it was all favorable.
I was in hot water.
What?
Is he in hot water?
Oh, I don't know if ramifications were from it, but I just know that he was on a video talking about Christ and the wonderful things he did and how he helped people and healed people.
So it's okay. So we make our way back, and we'll when we run out of things to talk about, we'll turn her off. But until we do, we'll just keep it running. But sorry, this is a kind of ugly trail that I came down here. This is my first time down this little trail. Let's show you what we're up against. Where is it? All right. The trail we're going up. Oh, let's see, where is it? Oh, right behind us. There we go. It's a little soft and kind of not very, a little steep for my blood, but anyways.
Well, William Tyndale, he went against the grain of the day, you know.
Yeah.
And the attitude that you couldn't, it's illegal. It was even illegal. One lady got burned at the stake for giving her kids a scripture or something from the.
Can you imagine that?
And translating it for him or something in English, like it was the Lord's Prayer. That she copied it down, and she figured out how to put it in English.
But if you
she
want
got
to
arrested for that.
But you want that's illegal. But even today, people want the scriptures out of schools. Want it out of school libraries.
Yeah, we have the same thing going on.
Yeah.
Now.
You know what they want in place of it? They want pornographic material.
Yeah.
For our children, so they can confuse themselves.
Yeah, so they don't know who they are or the gender.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's just like.
It's like it's going on again. It's like we had a pretty good society up until the last, I don't know, several decades. It's been changing slowly.
Yeah. Do you follow the politics up in Canada?
No, I don't think the Prime Minister is well respected up there.
Oh,
One of my brothers.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite Canadians is Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, is he a baseball player?
No, he's a psychologist, a university professor who got officially censured from the Canadian government just a little while ago for what?
He must have had good stuff then.
Oh yeah. Oh, he is and he just a side note. He happened to be on the same drug that my wife was, prescription drug that my wife was on, and struggled for 3 years or more to get off. And he did too. He went all around the world trying to help him to get off that drug. It's scary, scary.
What was it? Was that for menopause?
No, it was for. She
So
couldn't.
that's
She
brutal
had
to
no.
get off of.
She had no appetite. Could not eat. It was basically anxiety, but
Oh, exactly.
and she was withering away and could not eat. And this drug helped her to eat for a while, but it's impossible to get off of. And
It's addictive.
I don't know exactly his story, but he traveled all around the world from country to country to get help and trying to get him off it. He finally got off it, and strangely enough, he found that the carnivore diet for him was the only diet that would allow him to have a normal life. I don't recommend it to anyone, but I guess people are different. But anyways, if you haven't, you ought to look up his stuff. He's one of the most articulate men.
Jordan Peterson?
Jordan Peterson.
I think I will look him up. Oh, you gave me some other people too, and I've looked them up.
Yeah.
And there's this
Some
Hyman guy that you showed me.
Mark Hyman, yeah,
He's
doctor
got
on.
some good ideas.
Oh yeah, your food is your medicine.
Yeah, food is,
Basically.
think about food as medicine.
Yeah, I love him. But Jordan Peterson is more of a philosophical thinking type of guy, but he's probably one of the most eloquent people on the internet. And of course, he's a Canadian. Most of the Canadians I've met have been delightful and very great conversationalists. I tell you, if you want to have an interesting conversation on an airplane for a couple of hours, sit next to a Canadian. They're great to talk to. Jordan Peterson, yeah. So, anyways.
I have to look at this guy up. If he was censored by the government, that must mean he has some truth.
Yeah, he's over the target.
It's kind of like, William Tyndale in his day.
Yeah, exactly.
All he wanted was to have people be able to read in their own language, the Bible. And he was censored by the establishment.
Yes.
Back then.
Yeah. A good analogy.
I think we're forming a new establishment that's going to be fighting against everything that's good. So.
But yeah, so anyways, do you want to wrap it up, sir, or is there more things you want to talk about? How would you, what do you want to say to wrap it up? Bring it on home. Bring it on home for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think we're looking for a lot of remedies for our ailments, but the leaders of the church, they always bring us back to Christ as the answer. Christ is the answer, so that's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah.
I try not to focus on the negative or the past.
That's
Try
good.
to go forward in faith.
That's good.
There's no.
Do you still have rough days?
Oh, of course. Yeah, yesterday I had a really bad day.
And
You just gotta have faith and persevere through it.
And what are you thinking in those moments? What are you thinking to get you through? What do you think? Is it it's not a physical thing? Is it an emotional, mental thing, or
It's
is
more
it?
emotional, mental.
And how do you fight that?
Too tired. Sleep it off. Your brain is different in the morning. Like this morning I felt fine. Last night I didn't. I was just battling demons of darkness.
Can I tell you one story?
Sure.
Just about how really we can control our moods more than we realize. One time, me and my wife were in an argument over something. This is years ago, decades ago. And we were fuming at each other, right? And then the doorbell rang. And who was at the door? The home teachers. And then, home teachers are here. We have to put on a happy face. And we put on a happy face. put on a happy face,
Happy face, yeah.
and they were there for about 30 minutes. And you know what happened?
What?
When they left, I almost totally forgot what we were arguing about.
Wow.
It's like fake it till you make it. There's some truth to that. You think you're in a bad mood, and you think you can't get out of it. Well, your home teachers come to the door, and you have to put on a happy face. And when you put on the happy face, you become the happy person sometimes.
Yeah.
It's the strangest experience. I just learned from that our mood is more more in our control than we realize. I think we tend to think, oh, that person put me in a bad mood, or I'm in a bad mood because of this, or I'm depressed because of that, or I'm not having a good day because of this or that. No, it's your choice. It's your choice. And it's, sometimes maybe some people need medication for a short period of time to help them learn that, but the medication is not a long-term solution in my view. But maybe there are some people that it is the only answer. But in my case, I've found that not to be true. When we were growing up, do you remember hearing? It seemed like positive mental attitude. Positive mental attitude was a big thing we'd always hear about.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember hearing.
Earl Nightingale.
Was it Earl Nightingale? Yeah.
Remember him?
Oh, I love his book. I used to listen to a lot of books on tape, and that was one of my favorite. What's the name of his book? Or his Earl Nightingale. Oh my heavens!
Positive thinking.
That, I tell you, that will change your life. That book. If I can think of the title, I can't think of it right now, but
Power of positive thinking.
something like that. Power of positive thinking.
Well, that was Andrew Carnegie or Dale Carnegie.
Maybe him too.
I don't know.
I think Paul Harvey used to. Was it Paul Harvey that used to quote?
Oh yeah, Paul Harvey.
Quote him a lot.
Yeah.
Earl Nightingale, or give kind of similar type of stories, where it's really, we're all dealt with a different hand, and we all are given some tools, but we can all do better with the tools we were given. Anyways, I don't want to sound too preachy, but it's let's see what time we're going to get to 43-minute mark. But okay, let's see. Okay, quick question. Other than the Bible, this is totally off topic, but any of your what name a favorite book that has really impacted your life?
Other than the Bible and the Book
Yeah.
of Mormon.
Yeah. Oh, if you can think of something. Okay. Well, don't worry. Alrighty. Well,
Measuring America.
Measuring America. Who wrote that? Oh, so this is your job for your book? I mean, a book for your job?
Yeah. It's inspiring to see how they laid out the basically property, how
Plots
they
of
laid
land.
across. Well, they developed a system. They had meets and bounds in the east, and it wasn't working too good for them. And then when Jefferson purchased Louisiana territory from Napoleon, they knew they needed a systematic way to measure the land, and
Right.
they found it, and they started in Ohio. And there's actually a monument there in
Oh,
Ohio on the north
I
side of
lived
the
in
Ohio
Ohio.
River.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they started
Let's get
Thomas
let's
Hutchinson
turn around
was
so you
the
get a
first,
light on us.
was a surveyor back then that started out laying out the land in the Western Territory, and Michigan was considered part of the Northwest. That was actually back then because they didn't have the rest of America.
Right.
So Michigan and Ohio areas were considered the Northwest to them. So it's funny how our perspective changes.
Yeah.
The Northwest to them was Ohio, and that's where they started the U.S. rectangular system. And they were experimenting in that state. Actually, they have different systems. That's where they learned to lay out the rest of the country from.
Interesting.
When they got to the prairies, it was a good thing because imagine how confusing our land system would be, land registry.
So we took cues from France.
Yes.
And Napoleon.
Well, yeah, Thomas Jefferson and his cohorts. They wanted to cover this U.S. rectangular system
Right.
of surveys.
Right.
So it wouldn't be all disjointed meets and bounds and overlaps of property boundaries. They wanted an organized system.
Oh, wow.
And they used a rectangular system of land survey. And it's
Why
Thomas
rectangle?
Jefferson.
Why not square? Why not square?
Well, because the squares aren't square because the earth is not flat.
So, but if a square is not square, a rectangle is not a rectangle either. So what you can?
There's no square that's a perfect square on the grid system because the earth converges at the north poles and south poles, and you're always you have a system where you have sections, township, and range, but they're not square because they're converging.
Right.
The latitude and longitude is converging toward the pole, and so they can't be total squares.
Right.
But that's called a U.S. rectangular system. It's more of a rectangle.
Right, but if you, I don't want to play devil's advocate, but let's say we decided that where we're standing right now is the North Pole, even though it's not north, and everything goes out from here, we could say that from this point there's no perfect square because it's round wherever, the Earth is round whatever point you're on, right?
I'd have to get in more detail with you.
Well,
I'd probably have to write it down for you to show you on a map.
Right.
But most of the sections, square sections, are square.
Oh.
Except for the north and the west, because you can't be square.
Right.
Because yours is converging.
Right.
And then they're smaller up top on the top of the township.
Right.
The sections. There's 36 sections in a township. See, this is what they developed, the system.
Oh, okay.
It's quite intriguing. They ought to make a game out of it or write another book about it because to me it's intriguing. But these guys thought of this.
Oh, wow.
And it just made, when you go to the county courthouse.
I've never thought about it.
You know, every property in the United States you can pinpoint because of the way they created this system.
Right.
Where there's no duplicate. I go to your house with a legal description.
Right.
I can find your very house, and there's no other house in the whole world that's at the same location.
The grid coordinates or whatever?
Yeah, it says it goes off. When the first Saints came to Utah, they put they have the Salt Lake baseline and meridian.
Right.
At one of the corners of Temple Square. I forget which corner. I try to look at it when I'm there, but they laid it out, and it's all in a square pattern.
Oh, wow.
And
I remember hearing that Salt Lake was like a kind of unique, or what?
It was unique. Yeah, Brigham Young really knew how to lay out a city, I'll tell you. Oh yeah, and he made the streets wide.
Oh, huge.
So he could turn an ox cart around him. That's what he said, remember?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, he had some pretty...
He didn't dream of 6 lanes of traffic, did he?
Yeah, and that's before cars and congestion.
But here we are now. Here's those 6 or 8 lanes of traffic back there.
If you ever in an airplane and you're flying, let's say I was in Denver.
Right.
I was flying out of Denver.
Right.
And all these township sections and ranges, you could see sections from the airplane.
Yes.
Little orderly little squares.
Yes.
And they're all cultivated differently.
Yes. I've flown over north.
Yeah,
I mean,
and those are sections. And we look at them on a map all the time.
Yeah.
And there's a baseline and a meridian. There's like 37 of them in the United States. Yeah. Salt Lake has a baseline and meridian. Everything is measured off that.
Interesting. And one thing you notice when you're flying over the country is that it's mostly unpopulated.
That's for sure.
And people talk about, we're running out of space.
Yeah.
Fly over America and see if...
There's a lot of space out there.
There's a lot of space out there.
There's a lot of land, yeah.
Oh, man.
When I was in British Columbia growing up, shoot, I used to take a hike on top of our mountain there in Samuel, British Columbia. And there's so much forest that there's just a small part that was inhabited, small road and little houses.
Yeah.
But most of it was wild.
Right. So it's amazing that people's perspective, these... Anyways, I don't want to get too political, but... All right, well, this will be a good place to wrap it up, don't you think?
Yeah, this is a good place.
Grid system.
Yeah, we wrap it up on the U.S. Rectangular Survey System.
I find that fascinating.
Thomas Jefferson was a great man. He was inspired with a lot of things, and that was one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, his system. And you wouldn't believe the disorder they had back in his day with measurements.
Right.
People always using different measurements, and then in England they had to come up with their set measurements, and then America had to match. He went to Paris all the time, France, and they were all trying to agree on I don't know if you ever heard of Edmund Gunter.
I have not.
He's from the 1500s. He developed what did he develop? The measurements we use today, even chains, feet, chains, rods. He developed that whole system.
Oh, wow.
And then they use that in America. And now we don't use that kind of language much anymore, but there's still things in my business that are measured in rods or chains, and people don't know what the heck that is, but I know how to convert it into feet. So, but that's the language back then, and that's what they developed a system.
Right.
Thomas Jefferson wanted an orderly weights and measures, and Measuring America is a good book to learn about that.
Along those lines, I asked you a question about a book. That's an interesting book. One of my books that would come in that category, my favorite books, is a thin little book called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. He was a French philosopher in about the 1700s, I think. And wrote about politics, and that book changed it just opened my eyes to how important politics are, and what it means to be free, and why there's laws, and just because 10 people want this and one person wants this, if it's not lawful, it doesn't matter how many people want this unlawful thing. There's some basic laws that cannot be violated. Anyways, it's a book about this. It was only like
Bastiat?
Yeah, Bastiat. It ends with a T, but it's only about 70. It's a quick read, about 75 pages, but I highly recommend it. This is one of the books recommended by Ezra Taft Benson.
Oh,
and anyways, back when I was becoming politically aware, I read that book and I was just like, no.
There's things that President Benson said that still stick in my mind. Like secret combinations are thriving.
Yes.
It's kind of scary. But he said that...
More today than ever.
But it's funny. People today are so ignorant.
Oh, yeah.
Because they think, well, that's a conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah.
Where's your tinfoil hat and all that?
Yeah.
And they're so ignorant because, see, a conspiracy theory is not a secret combination.
Right.
That's a totally different... Did you know that in the early 1800s, they used... That was a more common word.
Oh, yeah.
Combination.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the only people that
tinfoil
understand the secret combinations are people that read the book.
Yeah, I know.
And our government is so entangled in corruption. It's just, you couldn't begin to unravel it.
I totally agree.
I mean, I don't even watch the news because why do I care? I mean, they're making deals with China, and China, blah, blah, this, and this, and this. And Biden's son is like the totally corrupt person in the whole world. But, it's like, there's just certain...
At a certain point, you have to turn the news off. Or else
you don't want to focus on it.
It brings you down.
My sister, she watches she's very conservative. She watches the conservative TV. Tucker Carlson and
Uh-huh.
guys even more conservative. And she's real big on Trump. And it's like her and my other sister, she hates Trump.
Uh-huh.
So my one sister loves Trump. And they
It's kind of like my siblings. Where,
It used to be so close, and now they're all broken apart just because of this stupid politics.
yeah.
What does it matter in 100 years? I mean, the politics was corrupt in Book of Mormon times as well as it is today.
Right.
Why should you make it upset your relationships
Exactly.
in this life?
Exactly.
I just don't get it. I'm apolitical. I think we should have get rid of the Democrats, Republicans, just be Americans and fight for liberty and our own welfare instead of having this political. I don't know if you're familiar with G. Edward Griffith, but
G. Edward Griffith.
He's a great author about conspiracies.
Oh, is he none call it, dare call it conspiracy?
No, that was Alan. That was Alan who wrote that book. I read that book.
Oh.
I tell you what, a friend gave me that, and it opened my eyes, and I'm going, wow. The way he reads that.
Okay,
Does that remind you of something?
I think I inherited that from my dad, and I don't think I've read the book, but I probably own it. But was he one of the?
It was Alan. His last name was Alan, and he got
Bircher. Bircher, was he a Bircher?
He was a butcher, I think, yeah. And I think he got poisoned or something. I think they killed him.
Yeah.
But the way he worded that, none dare call it.
I'll have to check it out. But check out the law and see what you think of the law. That book is.
Well, the thing is with Alan is he wrote none dare call it conspiracy.
Uh-huh.
He quotes Carol Quigley a lot. Who was a professor at Georgetown University.
Uh-huh.
And he knew of this clandestine secret world order that was developing. He said he saw their paperwork, or their plans for domination. And this guy was a liberal professor, and he was for what they were doing, but he was all for it.
Oh.
Against democracy and freedom and all that. He was all for it, but he wrote about it because he was hanging out with these guys. And he had one quote that always sticks in my mind. He says, "The powers of financial capitalism have a far-reaching aim, no less than to dominate the political system of every country." Now, you see, when we have problems with our politicians,
Yes.
just read that quote and you'll know why.
Oh, exactly.
It's because we're being manipulated by these higher financial... Like the Morgan House, for example. There is an example of a secret combination where, I don't know if you ever read about J.P. Morgan, but he was a genius in one way, but he would screw people. I mean, him and Rockefeller, back in the Gilded Age of the late 1800s, Rockefeller and him were all combined, and they were buying politicians.
Oh,
and they were combined against the little guy, making people work like 12 hours a day, 1 day off a week, and then they'd lower their pay and make them work harder just because they wanted to make more profit for themselves. They were just wicked, those guys. Rockefeller and Morgan and Carnegie.
So, why should we think that anything has changed? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just more subtle. It's more, you don't see it. You can't see it.
But I feel sorry for the younger generation. They don't know.
Oh yeah, they think that Biden is the answer or whatever.
Have you seen them interview college students on the street? There's some basic. Where's the Atlantic Ocean? Where's the Pacific Ocean? Some basic stuff.
Jay Leno.
Yeah, it just
streetwalker. Jay walking. Oh yeah, it's kind of scary to see a teacher not even know. What was it? He asked a teacher something about the moon. How many moons were there? And she didn't know, but she was a scholar.
But
something like that.
They're all on that gender thing and pronouns and all over that.
Oh yeah.
Gender. Jordan Peterson originally got in hot water because he refused to call somebody by their gender pronoun, and it's not like he was calling them this or that. He was just calling them by their name or something. He chose not to use this false fantasy pronoun for them, and he got. And I think he was officially censured by the Canadian government.
Well, they're really liberal up there.
Oh man.
My brothers, you wouldn't believe the difference. My brothers up there are hardworking people that live out in the country.
Right.
And they have guns.
Right.
You know, bears. They have bears. They have all sorts of wildlife hanging around. And here the government is like, you have to register their guns, and nobody does it.
Right.
And Canada is so, they follow Europe just like.
Oh yeah.
And now we're trying to, I guess we're trying to follow them too, but Canada's way more liberal than even Oregon.
So, but even the word liberal does not mean today what it used to mean.
Yeah, liberal back then was a conservative, probably.
It was like liberals back then were for freedom. They're not for freedom today. That's sure. They want to control every aspect of your life.
No, they want to control the youth. They want to.
Yeah.
Even my niece, she teaches at the university, at college, up in Oregon, and she actually lost her testimony, and she really believes in this new stuff that they're bringing out, the woke movement and all this nonsense. It's just going to destroy this country.
Yeah. And
and my sister, her mother, they can't even talk about politics.
Yeah.
They'll get in an argument. So.
Well, most families there's people like that, and mine is no different.
You got to watch what you say.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't. I think it's worth. I don't think it's worth an argument.
Right.
Because I'm neither for Trump or Biden. I mean, I'd rather have Trump actually than Biden because I think he's more honest and he cares more about America, his core values.
Yes.
But he's not perfect. I mean, but I like the fact that he's not a career politician either.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he opens up oil and gas and it makes good jobs for people.
Yeah.
I mean, screw the environment. In a couple hundred years, the crisis is going to be here. I shouldn't say that because I'm involved in environmental. I work with the environmental people at my job, But secretly, it's like a lot of these people don't understand that crisis is coming and we're going to have new heavens and new earth. So why worry about a little lizard that's going to...
Well, I'll tell you what.
Lizard ladder on your project.
Talk about the climate. But I've essentially lived in Utah, except for short periods of time, but away. Nothing's changed. We still have cold winters, wet winters, dry winters. We also have cold summers, wet summers. We have weather events, but essentially nothing has changed. But
as far as global warming?
Yeah.
No,
that's nonsense.
I feel like if there's any global warming, Arizona would know first.
They'd be frying their eggs on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Canadians, they get some. Like last winter was pretty brutal here.
Oh, this is a brutal winter last year.
Yeah,
we thought we were gonna have some
there's global climate change, but this global warming is a political thing.
Yeah.
Did you know? I was reading a book about in like 1200s or 1300s that there was a massive global warming period, and there was like millions of people died.
People die more from heat than. I'm sorry. From cold. Actually, it's the opposite. If we have a cold spell, more people will probably die than a hot spell. But either way, I mean, climate changes. That's what it does. It's always done that from the beginning of time. And for a man to think that he can control that, it's absurd to me. But anyways,
those people are scary. Like Al Gore and those people in charge that believe that stuff. They're trying to do things to our climate. They're probably going to screw it up worse than it.
Oh yeah.
By just leave it alone. Let nature.
Yeah.
Nature's smarter than
our politicians,
even scientists.
Yeah. I
mean, nature knows how to take care of herself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. On that note, let's put a pin on, not a ribbon on this, and we've crossed the hour mark. So that was a good fun. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mark.
And it was fun. And
it's good for me too.
All right. I hope it's therapy for you. I hope some of our listeners my 3 listeners can get a nugget out of it.
3 million listeners.
3 million awakening. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.